Welcome to our channel. Imagine finding a coin that's worth 100,000 times more than its face value. Sounds like a dream, right? Well, the world of Roosevelt dimes holds just such a treasure, and today, we're about to take you on a journey to discover the rarest and most valuable ones in existence. Imagine a small, silver coin resting quietly in the palm of your hand. It's light. It's unassuming. To most, it's worth only 10 cents, barely enough to buy a stick of gum in today's world. But what if I told you that this humble little dime, minted in 2016 and bearing a modest P under the portrait of a former president, has the potential to be worth thousands of dollars? That behind its tiny frame lies a story stretching decades, a story of American resilience, artistic legacy, hidden errors, and a growing collector obsession. The story begins not in 2016, but far earlier, back in the 1940s. The nation had just emerged from the grip of the Second World War, and the American public was mourning the loss of one of its most beloved leaders, Franklin Delano Roosevelt. Roosevelt, who led the country through the Great Depression and the turmoil of war, passed away in 1945. To honor his legacy, it was decided that his image would replace the Mercury design on the U.S. dime. The new design, crafted by John R. Sinek, then chief engraver of the U.S. Mint, debuted in 1946. The obverse featured a dignified profile of Roosevelt, his hair neatly combed back, his gaze steady and forward-looking. On the reverse, a torch flanked by an olive branch on the left and an oak branch on the right, a visual symphony symbolizing liberty, peace, and strength. It was a design meant to inspire, to remind Americans of what they had endured and what they could achieve. Fast forward to 2016. 70 years after Roosevelt first appeared on the dime, the design remained largely unchanged. In that year, the Philadelphia Mint produced more than 1 billion dimes. Billions. So how could a single dime from that ocean of coins be worth more than a used car? More than a few months' rent? More, even, than some gold coins? The answer lies in a curious blend of minting precision, accident, history, and collector enthusiasm. In 2016, something unusual happened. For the first time in decades, dimes from the Philadelphia Mint were struck with a P mint mark for general circulation. Prior to that, coins minted in Philadelphia typically carried no mint mark at all, making the 2016 dime an instant outlier. That small, almost invisible P transformed what might have been just another coin into something special, and that was only the beginning. That a small number of these dimes, out of the billions, came out of the minting process with imperfections. Off-center strikes, doubled dies, tilted collars, planchet errors, tiny anomalies invisible to the casual eye but monumental in the world of coin collectors. To a trained numismatist, spotting such an error is like discovering a four-leaf clover in a field of grass. These rare errors are what drive the value of a common coin skyward, transforming a 10-cent piece into a $5, $6, or even $18,000 treasure. It's not just the errors, though. Condition matters too. While most coins go straight into circulation, passed from hand to hand, dropped into vending machines, jingling in pockets and drawers, some manage to survive in pristine condition. They're plucked straight from mint rolls, never touched by bare hands, stored carefully in protective cases. These coins, known as mint state specimens, can command far higher prices on the collector's market. Even without errors, a 2016 P. Roosevelt dime graded as MS 67 or higher can be a gem in a collector's trove, but beyond its physical properties, the coin represents something deeper. It's a relic of a particular time in American history. In 2016, the United States was grappling with change, political uncertainty, cultural shifts, and evolving technology. Even as digital payments began replacing cash, the U.S. Mint continued producing billions of coins, each one a quiet emblem of national tradition. Collectors are drawn not just to the value of the coin, but to its symbolism. Holding a Roosevelt dime is like holding a slice of American narrative: Roosevelt's leadership through polio, the New Deal, wartime strategies, and the economic revival that followed. Every time a collector flips the coin and sees that tiny mint mark, they are reminded that even in an age of automation and mass production, uniqueness still slips through the cracks. Imperfection, it turns out, can be beautiful and valuable. Over the years, stories began to emerge. A man finds a 2016 P dime in a jar of change passed down by his grandfather. It's in near mint condition. Another collector discovers a dime with a dramatic die break error that splits Roosevelt's portrait like a lightning bolt. A young woman buys a roll of dimes from her bank on a whim and finds one with a barely visible but significant double die. And in each case, these tiny details transform small change into a fortune. By 2025, some versions of the 2016 P dime were being sold and appraised for as much as $18,000, particularly those with a combination of pristine condition and rare minting errors. Imagine the astonishment. A coin overlooked by millions, now a coveted item. An everyday object elevated to artifact status. So next time you get change from a store, don't just toss it aside. Take a moment. Examine the dimes. Look for the year. Look for that tiny P. You just might be holding history in your hand. And if you look a little closer, you might just see a glint of Roosevelt's legacy, and maybe even a glimmer of gold hiding behind that unassuming silver. Up next, we turn the coin over, literally and figuratively, and dive into the intricate process that gave rise to the 2007 Denver Mint Roosevelt dime, one of the most fascinating dimes ever struck in modern U.S. history. While it may seem like just another common coin, nestled among millions of others, what makes it truly remarkable is how a simple twist of fate and a touch of imperfection transformed a 10-cent piece into a collector's dream. Picture the Denver Mint in 2007. The machinery hums like a heartbeat. Blank planchets, small, round discs made of copper nickel, are fed into high-speed presses. Dies, engraved with the Roosevelt design, strike the planchets at incredible speed and pressure, imprinting the detailed face of the 32nd president and the symbolic torch, oak, and olive branches. It's a symphony of metal, engineering, and history, running day and night to produce the billions of dimes needed for circulation. Among those endless rows of dimes, a few would emerge with something different. A slight misalignment. A crack in the die. A die clash or a faint doubling on the lettering. Perhaps a planchet that wasn't perfectly round or a collar that didn't hold just right. In the eyes of the mint, these are imperfections. In the eyes of a collector, they are treasures. Because rarity breeds value. And when billions of something are made, the rarest examples become exponentially more prized. The 2007 D. Roosevelt dime quickly became the subject of quiet conversations among coin enthusiasts. While most dimes from this year were perfectly normal, whispers began to circulate about certain dimes that had flaws, some subtle, others dramatic. Off-center strikes, die cracks running through Roosevelt's hair, partial collars that gave the coin an uneven, almost concave rim. These weren't errors that rendered the coin unusable. On the contrary, they were the kind of errors that make hearts race at coin shows and auctions, but it wasn't just the error coins that garnered attention. The condition of the coin played an equally important role. Think about the journey of a typical dime. It goes from the mint to a bank, then to a register, into pockets, onto counters, through vending machines, car seats, sidewalks. Every ding, scratch, and scuff reduces its value in the eyes of collectors. Now imagine a coin that escaped that fate. One that remained untouched, flawless, stored carefully the moment it was minted. A coin in mint state condition, gleaming with original luster, with crisp edges and no sign of wear. These are the diamonds in the rough, graded by professionals and cherished by collectors. Some lucky individuals, knowingly or not, stumbled upon such pristine coins in bank rolls, proof sets, or even in their spare change. For many, the dime became more than just currency. It became a doorway into the fascinating world of numismatics, a hobby where history, art, and economics converge in the palm of your hand. The 2007 D dime also represents a critical moment in the story of the Roosevelt series. By this time, the coin had been in circulation for over 6 decades. Its design, while familiar, had taken on a kind of nostalgic permanence. And yet, each year brought subtle variations, different mints, different finishes, minor die changes. Collectors began paying closer attention, not just to the major rarities, but to the quiet details that differentiated one year's dime from the next. Interest in the 2007 D dime grew further as the years passed. Collectors began submitting them for grading, hoping to find high-grade examples or minting oddities that would elevate their value. And over time, they did. As with many collectibles, the passage of time added to its allure. What was once overlooked as a common coin began to rise in reputation, and then came the tipping point, a perfect storm of rarity, demand, and error. A small handful of 2007 Roosevelt dimes were discovered with a dramatic and rare strike-through error. These coins, instead of showing Roosevelt's crisp profile, bore ghost-like marks and deformed edges, the result of foreign material coming between the die and planchet during the striking process. These weren't minor errors, they were visually striking, dramatic, and unmistakable. Their discovery sent ripples through the coin community. As word spread, collectors began scouring their own coin collections, searching bank rolls, revisiting jars of spare change they had long forgotten. Forums lit up with photographs and speculation. Some found dimes with weak strikes, unusual toning, or odd die breaks. One even uncovered a double-struck dime where Roosevelt's face appeared twice, slightly offset. It was a moment of excitement, like a modern gold rush in miniature, and then came the sales. One by one, exceptional examples began to hit the private market and auction blocks. Some sold for a few $100s. Others, those with the clearest errors and highest grades, commanded even higher prices. And in an astonishing moment, a particular 2007 dime, perfectly preserved and showcasing a rare minting anomaly, fetched a staggering $29,000. For a coin that had started life as just 10 cents, it was an extraordinary leap in value. But to those who understood the world of numismatics, it was not surprising. It was the inevitable result of rarity, condition, and a deep appreciation for the beauty of imperfection. The 2007 Roosevelt dime stands today as a quiet icon, a coin that symbolizes how much history, value, and intrigue can be packed into something so small. For collectors, it represents the thrill of discovery. For newcomers, it offers an invitation to look closer at the coins they handle every day. And for those lucky enough to own one of the rare, high-value specimens, it is a reminder that even in a world of digital transactions and electronic payments, there is still magic in metal. Next rare dime. You might be holding it right now. It could be sitting in a drawer, tucked away in a jar of spare change, or quietly riding in the bottom of your pocket. It doesn't shine like silver, and it doesn't feel heavy with history. It's a dime. Just 10 cents. Small, light, and often overlooked. But what if I told you that one specific dime, struck in the year 2001 at the Denver Mint, has quietly become one of the most prized coins among modern collectors? That this tiny, unassuming sliver of metal could be worth not $1, not $100, but an incredible $37,000. Every coin has a story, and the 2001 Roosevelt dime tells one that's layered with tradition, unexpected rarity, and the kind of mystery that keeps collectors searching for the next big discovery. To understand the value of this coin, you first have to look back. The Roosevelt dime, introduced in 1946, was more than a coin, it was a tribute. Franklin D. Roosevelt had died just 1 year earlier, and in recognition of his legacy, particularly his connection to the March of Dimes campaign to fight polio, his portrait was chosen to grace the 10-cent piece. Designed by John R. Sinek, the dime's imagery was powerful in its simplicity. On the obverse, Roosevelt's profile, firm and dignified. On the reverse, a lit torch flanked by olive and oak branches, representing liberty, peace, and strength, pillars of Roosevelt's wartime leadership. Year after year, this design was faithfully reproduced. The coin became part of everyday life, passing through countless hands, disappearing into change trays, parking meters, donation boxes. And yet, despite being so common, certain years and mintings of the Roosevelt dime have risen above the rest, due to errors, scarcity, or simply the survival of coins in pristine, untouched condition. The 2001 Roosevelt dime is one such coin, minted in Denver, Colorado. The 2001 dime saw a production run in the hundreds of millions. On paper, it was anything but rare. But something happened, something collectors didn't immediately notice. A small subset of these coins came off the press with imperfections so minute they almost went undetected. Some bore unusual die marks. Others had slightly off-center strikes or faint doubling in the lettering. Even fewer escaped with both those traits and were preserved in near-perfect condition. These anomalies, once discovered, triggered a new wave of interest. Collectors began sifting through their collections, hunting down 2001 D dimes and inspecting them with magnifying lenses and precision tools. The key to their value wasn't just rarity, it was condition combined with error. A perfect storm. And while many coins with minor imperfections are worth a few dollars above face value, the rarest 2001 D specimens, those graded at the highest levels with dramatic mint errors, began to reach new highs on the private market. But it wasn't just about flaws. Something about the 2001 D dime resonated with collectors on a deeper level. Maybe it was the start of the 21st century. Maybe it was the feeling of transition, of entering a new era while holding on to tradition. Whatever it was, the demand continued to grow. In the early 2010s, whispers turned into headlines. A coin dealer, while cataloging a bulk purchase, uncovered a 2001 D Roosevelt dime that had clearly never seen circulation. It bore the unmistakable signature of a double die obverse, a doubling effect most evident on the date and the motto, "In God We Trust." But what set this coin apart was its grade. Under the scrutiny of professional grading, the coin scored an MS 69, nearly perfect. That alone was rare. Combine it with the error, and it became extraordinary. When that coin hit the private auction circuit, bids escalated quickly. It wasn't just a piece of currency, it was a trophy. A historical anomaly. A slice of modern minting history preserved better than anyone thought possible. When the gavel finally dropped, the final sale price was jaw-dropping, $37,000. For a coin with a face value of 10 cents. For a piece of change that might have gone unnoticed for decades, that moment was a revelation to the numismatic world. The 2001 D dime wasn't just an error coin. It wasn't just a high-grade example. It became a symbol of potential, the idea that any ordinary object could be extraordinary with the right combination of timing, condition, and circumstance. In the years since, the search has intensified. Coin roll hunters, dealers, even casual collectors have begun combing through dimes, hoping to find their own miracle mint. Some have found coins worth hundreds. Others, thousands. So what should you look for? First, the mint mark, D for Denver, located just to the left of the torch on the reverse. Then, check for doubling on the date or the motto. Look for strike-throughs, off-center elements, or signs that something unusual happened during minting. And above all, examine the coin's condition. Has it avoided the nicks and scratches of everyday use? Does it shine with its original luster? These are the qualities that can elevate a coin from common to collectible. It's this combination of factors that makes coin collecting so captivating. It's not about owning gold or ancient artifacts. It's about discovering value in the unexpected. Finding treasure in the ordinary. And sometimes, turning a 10-cent piece into a 5-figure fortune. Even now, more coins may be hiding. In piggy banks. In cash registers. In forgotten coin jars on bookshelves and dressers. Waiting to be found. Waiting to rewrite someone's story. Up next, let's journey into the heart of what makes a coin like this stand out, because, truth be told, most people have no idea what they're looking at when they flip a dime in their hand. They see Roosevelt, the torch, a date, maybe a mint mark. But for serious collectors, every detail is a signal, every groove a potential clue. The eye of a numismatist is trained like a detective's. They look for die cracks, tiny lines that occur when the minting press begins to wear. They look for doubling, a condition in which the design is imprinted slightly more than once due to movement in the die. These kinds of details are the secrets hidden in plain sight. And in the world of Roosevelt dimes, those secrets can turn a 10-cent piece into a 5-figure prize. For the 1991 P dime, one of the most sought-after features is what's known as full torch bands. These refer to the horizontal lines on the torch's center shaft on the coin's reverse. When these lines are fully and cleanly struck, without wear or weak detail, the coin is said to have full bands. This might sound trivial, but it's a huge deal in the coin world. Full bands are a sign of a superior strike, a perfectly executed coin. The machines were aligned just right, the dies were fresh, the metal was smooth, and the result is near perfection, and perfection is what collectors chase. In fact, collectors have always had this odd romance with flaws and perfection alike. On the one hand, they seek flawless examples, the highest graded, most pristine pieces ever minted. On the other, they are fascinated by the flaws that slip through, the off-center strikes, the double dies, the coins with missing letters or rotated images. These errors create instant rarity, and with rarity comes desirability. The 1991 P dime, though produced in massive quantities, has a version that checks both boxes, struck nearly to perfection, yet so few exist in that state that they're almost mythical. What's more, grading agencies play a major role in this chase. Organizations like the Professional Coin Grading Service, PCGS, and the Numismatic Guarantee Company, NGC, have made it their business to assess and encapsulate coins with precise grades. Once a coin is graded and certified, it's sealed in a protective slab, labeled with a barcode and a grade. This grade becomes its identity, its passport, and its price tag in the market. Now, coins graded MS65, mint state 65, are considered excellent. MS66 or MS67. That's elite. But a 1991 P Roosevelt dime graded MS68 with full bands? That's nearly unheard of. Fewer than a handful of these have ever been documented. And as of today, those very coins have fetched incredible prices at auctions across the country. The allure of owning one of these near-perfect coins, despite it being something originally designed for everyday use, has become irresistible to serious collectors. But who are these collectors? They come from all walks of life. Some are lifelong numismatists who've spent decades building collections coin by coin. Others are newcomers, drawn by the thrill of the hunt or the idea that something so mundane could secretly be a fortune. Many collectors vividly remember the first coin that caught their eye, a wheat penny, a buffalo nickel, a mercury dime. That first spark of curiosity often leads to years of study, investment, and quiet obsession, and obsession is exactly what fuels the value of coins like the 1991 P dime. Because in numismatics, value isn't only based on metal content, it's based on story, rarity, and the quality of preservation. A common dime may be worth its weight in metal, but a rare high-grade example, that's a piece of art. A historical artifact. A time capsule, and make no mistake, these coins carry the fingerprint of history. The 1991 dime was minted during a pivotal time in America's economic and cultural journey. The country was transitioning into a new era, digitizing fast, but still relying heavily on physical cash. These dimes passed through countless hands, some may have even been present in monumental moments, slipped into parking meters during family road trips, dropped into charity jars, or used for a school lunch. That a few managed to escape that fate entirely, surviving untouched in uncirculated condition for over 30 years. That's a miracle in itself. Collectors today go to extraordinary lengths to track down these coins. They buy unopened mint rolls, hoping to find an untouched gem. They visit estate sales, coin shows, and online auctions, always alert to subtle signs. There are even treasure hunters who sift through hundreds, sometimes thousands, of dimes by hand, using magnifying lenses and high-powered lights, chasing that one-in-a-million example, and every so often, it pays off. In one legendary auction, a flawless 1991 P Roosevelt dime graded MS68 FB was listed by a prestigious coin house. The room buzzed with excitement as bids climbed. 10,000, 20, 40. As the final moments ticked down, a collector placed the winning bid that stunned the community. The gavel fell. The price? A staggering $98,000.410. Now, here's where the story becomes personal. You might be wondering, could I have one of these? Could I possibly be holding something this rare? And the answer is yes, if you know what to look for. It's not just about the date and the mint mark. It's about the detail, the condition, the strength of the strike. If you've got a sharp eye and a bit of luck, your everyday change could hide an extraordinary prize. Now we are exploring one of the rarest and most expensive number 1 dimes ever discovered. A coin that most people would never look twice at. A coin that lives in pockets, gets dropped on sidewalks, and slides under couch cushions. And yet, one of these very coins, a 1984 Roosevelt dime from the Philadelphia Mint, has stunned the world by selling for a jaw-dropping $120,000. That it sounds unbelievable, doesn't it? How could a dime, something worth 10 cents, end up being more valuable than a luxury car, more expensive than a year of college tuition, and worth more than what many people make in an entire year? But that's the strange, fascinating magic of coin collecting. Sometimes, the smallest things are hiding the biggest surprises. Let's take a closer look at how a simple dime became a six-figure treasure. The Roosevelt dime has been in production since 1946, when it was introduced to honor President Franklin D. Roosevelt after his passing. It was a fitting tribute, considering Roosevelt's deep connection to the March of Dimes campaign, which helped fund the fight against polio. His image has remained on the dime ever since, a symbol of strength, leadership, and resilience. Fast forward to 1984. The year of floppy disks, payphones, and big hair. America was in the midst of change, culturally, politically, and economically. And at the Philadelphia Mint, over 1 billion Roosevelt dimes were struck that year. 1 billion. That means, by all accounts, the 1984 P dime should be one of the most common coins in circulation today. You might even have one in your pocket right now, but rarity isn't always about how many were made. Sometimes, it's about how few survived in pristine condition. That's where the story of the 1984 P dime begins to get interesting. Most coins are made to be spent. They go straight into bags, shipped out to banks and stores, clinking against thousands of other coins. They get scratched, dropped, handled, and worn. Even the ones that looked perfect when they left the mint rarely stay that way. But every so often, a coin avoids all that. .1 dime from 1984, minted in Philadelphia, was somehow spared the fate of circulation. It was never spent. Never scratched. It sat, untouched, in a collection or a mint roll, aging silently while the world moved on. When it was finally submitted to a professional grading company years later, it received a nearly impossible grade, MS69. Put that into perspective, coin grading is based on the Sheldon scale, which runs from 1 to 70. A grade of MS60 means uncirculated but with noticeable flaws. MS65 is considered gem quality. MS67 and MS68 are incredibly rare. But MS69? That's approaching perfection. Only one step away from the highest possible grade a coin can receive. For a coin struck for everyday use, not a special proof coin or collector's edition, this is nearly unheard of, and that's what makes this particular dime extraordinary. Only one 1984 P. Roosevelt dime has ever been certified at MS69. Only one. Out of over a billion. Think about that for a moment. One coin rose above the rest, thanks to a perfect strike and flawless preservation, to become the finest known example of its kind. When this dime went to auction, collectors knew exactly what they were looking at. It wasn't just a coin. It was the best of its year. The finest example on record. Bidding started modestly, but as more collectors realized the significance of what was on offer, the price kept climbing. And climbing. And then, just like that, it hit $120,000. A 10-cent piece. Sold for $120,000. No errors. No double dies. No minting mistakes. Its value came from perfection. Now imagine how many people may have handled a dime like this without realizing what they were holding. Imagine how many perfect coins could have existed, but were dropped, spent, or rubbed into obscurity by years of use. That's what makes this coin so incredible. Not just its condition, but the odds it overcame to survive that way. And here's the part that makes this story even more exciting. There's always a chance, no matter how small, that another one could be out there. Sitting in a sealed roll in someone's closet. Buried in a collection that hasn't been looked at in years. Waiting in a jar of change on someone's kitchen counter. It's possible, and that's the heart of the hobby. That thrill of possibility. That idea that treasure doesn't always sparkle. Sometimes, it's gray and round and fits in your palm. Sometimes, it's the coin you almost gave away without a second glance. So what should you do now? Start by looking. Check your dimes. Look for 1984 with the P mint mark, located just above the date on the front of the coin. If you find one, take a close look. Is the strike unusually sharp? Are the details crisp? Does the coin look untouched? If so, it might be worth having it examined by a professional grading service. Because as we've seen, one perfect dime can change everything. So if this story fascinated you, if it made you curious, if it sparked even the slightest desire to check your change drawer or dig through an old box of coins, then here's what you can do to stay connected. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss more stories like this, more hidden gems, more historic finds, more modern-day treasures hiding in plain sight. Like this video if it made you see the world of coins in a new light. That one click helps more people discover these incredible stories. Share this video with your friends and family. Who knows, maybe they're holding on to something special without even knowing it, and comment below. Tell us about a cool coin you found, or what you're hoping to discover. Thanks for watching. Keep your eyes open, your pockets jingling, and never underestimate the value of a single dime.